Now we're going to go back to find out what search would have been like in the 80s. Please welcome Marshall Simmonds.
So my presentation is on if history and the 80s had search and new communication. So whenever you do something like this and you're looking at history, you're inevitably going to learn something. And so I learned things. I'm going to share those with you. First off, I would say that the ultimate missed communication is Romeo and Juliet. She had an agenda. She obviously needed to get a message out. She entrusted it with the friar. Unfortunately, a few things didn't work out. It could have just taken a simple, very simple email message to send to Romeo, maybe to let him know of the agenda beforehand, to basically say, you know what? Hey, guess what? I'm not going to die. Another point would be, in 1775, Paul Revere got all the credit for doing this right. He could have blasted out a message, that's a no-brainer, to Boston, said, hey, the British are coming. But what you don't know is that he was actually drunk and was apprehended soon after by the British. And the three remaining writers didn't get any credit. So Longfellow wrote this poem about Paul Revere, and we don't ever hear about anything else. The evilest of the evil empires could have had, as Google well knows, you could just have the Chinese government infiltrate their database, steal the schematics, make it a heck of a lot easier for the rebels instead of entrusting it with a bounty hunter or a smuggler. So easy process a long time ago. In 1876 now we're talking about General Custer. He had a lot of the information at his disposal. If we were to give him search or the technology or the communication that we have today, he probably wouldn't have used it. He knew full well that over the rise there were 16,000 Arapaho and Sioux Indians, and he had 600 troops, and he said to charge. And he said to charge because he was full of hubris, he was full of narcissism, he was full of ego. In 1912, the Titanic was using all of their technology at their disposal. And there was actually another ship 30 miles away that saw the flares that were being shot off the ship, and they thought it was a celebration. They could have saved everybody. Ultimately, this was the SS California. They had the opportunity to come save everyone. But this is a classic example of even when you have technology, it can break down. Next slide. I think we missed an opportunity in the 60s and 70s without a lot of this communication tools, because I think that with all the change that was happening, there was a lot of nuance that slipped between the cracks, whether it was music or politics, etc. So I do think that was a missed opportunity. And I was a child of the 70s, but I really grew up in the 80s, in that I felt bad for Kermit the Frog. He was always saying that it's not easy being green. With some simple resources, he would have found that there is a community, and there is a social network, and you can commiserate, and you can learn that there are others out there, and you're never, ever really alone. But in 1984, I would say that Orwell was freaked out about the government watching them. But now it's so much worse because we're delivering this information to them. We're telling them who we are, where we're going, how much we paid, where we're going, what we're doing. We're delivering all that information right to them, so they don't have to monitor anything. We're giving it to them. But if you're the maitre d' from Chez Louis, a quick LinkedIn look up, you can find out that Ferris Bueller was not the sausage king of Chicago. And then Maverick and Goose, they just wanted to land their plane, but their commanding officer was threatening them, saying, you're going to fly cargo planes full of rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong. They could have done a quick lookup to determine, you know what? The private sector pays a hell of a lot more, and it's a lot safer. So we're going to go fly those cargo planes after all. And then you ultimately get into the scenario where, Claire would have texted the entire time that she was there with new technology or communication. Bender didn't have a phone, and so ultimately we would have found out, we wouldn't have bridged that social click gap, and we would have found out yet again that high school just sucks. In 1994, I had to pass statistics and probability. Even if I had the tools today, I still wouldn't have understood it. I needed Matthew Brown, who is the director of search at the New York Times, and a college friend to help me get through this. I did pass, I hated it, and I still don't know a damn thing about statistics and probability. In 2002, there's a breakthrough in cancer research, ovarian cancer detection research, through proteomics, in that cancer cells will shed a protein, and you can detect that over time. The flip side to that is, even though this was in 2002, this takes a while. And unfortunately, my mother died last year of ovarian cancer. So the moral of that story is that even if you have those tools, even if you have that technology, history is just sometimes too late. But I've benefited as much, if not more, from search than anybody else. I have a job at About.com and the New York Times. I met my wife at About.com 2 days later. I've built a family, I've built a career, and I've built my history using the tools and technology and communication from search. Thanks.